Joining us now from Capitol Hill, the man at the center of this controversy, Republican congressman from New York and the chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, Representative Peter King, who is holding hearings Thursday on the, quote, radicalization in the American Muslim community. And here in New York, we have Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and associate editor for The Washington Post and MSNBC political analyst Eugene Robinson. And for the record, these two gentlemen completely disagree. Congressman, I will let you begin, but I'll begin by reading from Eugene's column this morning. Some of your critics are saying about your upcoming hearings. It's not just Eugene's column, but we'll start there. Eugene writes, the narrative that al-Qaeda uses to recruit suicide bombers is that the U.S. and the West are not fighting terrorism, but trying to destroy Islam. Peter King, with his little hearings, is about to make it harder to refute the jihadist big lie. New York Magazine takes it a step further, but first, Representative King, would you like to respond?
Yeah, these hearings are absolutely essential. I am facing reality. My critics are not. They want to get tied up in some world of political correctness. The fact is, as Dennis McDonough, the president's deputy national security advisor, said the other night, al-Qaeda is recruiting from within the Muslim American community. For a long time, we thought this couldn't happen in our country, but the fact is, it is. And that was Mr. McDonough's message the other night. And I am saying the same thing Eric Holder said. He can't sleep at night because of the growing radicalization in this country. John Napolitano said that the terror threat is higher now than any time since 9/11 because of the radicalization. As Dennis McDonough said, that radicalization is coming from within the Muslim American community. It's a small percentage, but that's where it's coming from. Al-Qaeda has changed its tactics. They realize that it's very difficult to attack from the outside.
Eugene?
They're recruiting from within.
Eugene,
Congressman, you've made a shocking allegation. You have alleged that the Muslim American community has not been forthcoming in helping law enforcement officials deal with radicalization. Do you have any support for that? Who backs that up? Because there are a lot of law enforcement officials who deny that, who disagree with that, and disagree strongly.
Well, first of all, those law enforcement officials very seldom give any specifics. I talk to cops and counterterrorism people on the ground all the time, and they get virtually no cooperation. I can give you many cases, the Venus case in Long Island, the Zazi case in New York, but also the fact is that I will have witnesses testifying on Thursday. These are family members whose sons and nephews are radicalized, and they will show how the radicalization occurred. And when they went to the local mosque, when they went for help, they were denied. And when the FBI began an investigation, the imams in those mosques told the congregants not to cooperate. And that's the reality.
Hey, Congressman, it's Willie Geist. I think it's important to get out there and be very clear about what exactly you're going to be doing at the hearings this week, because the narrative out there is that you're dragging the Islamic faith in front of the country and putting it on trial. Who are you going to bring before you in these hearings, and what exactly is your goal?
First of all, the only ones starting that narrative are people like CARE, and unfortunately many people in the mainstream media who have bought onto this. I have said time and again, the overwhelming majority of Muslims are outstanding Americans. But as Dennis McDonough, as the Obama administration has said, al-Qaeda is recruiting from within the Muslim American community. I want to show the extent of that radicalization, how it can be noticed, how it can be detected, encourage more Muslims to come forward, encourage them to get a more responsible leadership. If you're talking about radicals in this, you have a group like CARE, which has emerged as a main spokesman, and they were unindicted co-conspirators in a major terrorist case. They should not be the spokesman for the Muslim community. I'm saying let's have people in the community come forward more. Family members do now. There's no doubt that in a number of cases, family members and the neighborhood people come forward, but it's the leadership that I'm concerned about.
We have Pat Buchanan in Washington.
Right.
Pat.
Well, let me throw the question to Gene. Gene, we got Major Hassan down there in that Fort Hood massacre. He was communicating with that fella in Yemen. We've got in Northern Virginia, Pakistani kids are leaving to fight the Americans over in the AFPAC. Somali kids are going back from the United States over to Somalia to fight our allies. Don't you agree there is a problem of susceptibility in the Muslim American community to these approaches that are being made by al-Qaeda?
And Pat, no one is more interested in dealing with this problem and eradicating this problem than the Muslim American community. And what underlies Representative King's hearings is an assumption to the contrary, is an assumption that the Muslim American community, a religious minority in this country, is somehow abetting abetting and aiding and giving shelter to this process of radicalization, when that is clearly not the truth. Those kids who went to Pakistan, no one was more concerned about that than their parents and the family members who knew of them. That's what underlies, I think, your hearing, and I think it's a wrong assumption. I think it's a dangerous and un-American assumption.
Let me just say on that. For instance, Pat mentioned Minneapolis. How about the number of young Somali men who went to Somalia, and the imams and the leaders in the Minneapolis Muslim community refused to cooperate with them at all? We're denying, in fact, for a long time that they'd even left. That's the reality we're talking about. And as Pat said, look at people in this country. For instance, Zazi, the subway bomber in New York. It was the imam who was supposedly working with the police who tipped off Zazi that the police were coming to get him. He was coming with liquid explosives to blow up the New York City subway system. We had Major Hassan, a major of the United States Army, communicating with Alaki in Yemen for a period of time. The FBI and the Army saw those emails. They saw the communications, yet they took no action against them. They were afraid, as General Casey said later on, they were more concerned about the issue of diversity. So these are issues that have to be addressed. And you take care. Probably the most prominent organization in the Muslim community right now is CARE, Committee on American-Islamic Relations. They had large posters up in California, San Francisco chapter of CARE, telling people not to cooperate with the FBI. Large sketches, slam your doors in the face of the FBI agents. That, to me, is not cooperation.
Mike Barnicle.
Congressman, I'm curious, are you going to have Ray Kelly, police commissioner in New York City, testify at these hearings?
No, I will not have Ray Kelly. Ray Kelly, though, has a person assigned from his department working on my staff.
Well, the reason I ask is you mentioned, that there is a code of silence in the Muslim community when it comes to identifying potential people here who are being recruited by al-Qaeda. There's been a code of silence in neighborhood after neighborhood for generations when it comes to urban murder in many, many neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And Ray Kelly and the New York Police Department, they have, I'm told, one of the finest intelligence gathering units, perhaps at some level better than the FBI, street level, in communities in New York. Why not have him to discuss this situation and what he thinks of it?
Because, quite frankly, I wanted to go within the Muslim community itself, have family members from the community show what happened. Ray Kelly and I talk on a regular basis. We meet on a regular basis. As I said, he is a full-time inspector working with me around the clock. He's assigned to the committee for the next 2 years, and he is also having with the Joint Terrorism Task Force and with the New York Intelligence Unit. So I'm getting the benefit of the NYPD's intelligence through this inspector who's working on the committee.
You're getting a lot of flack for this as well, as you know. Congressman, I'm going to read from New York Magazine, Peter King's Muslim problem. King says his goal is to protect us from a growing danger we've grown blind to and are afraid to look at out of political correctness. His opponents say by singling out Muslims, King is promoting anti-Islam hatred and could actually trigger a domestic terror attack. King sees himself as a brave voice seeking the truth. Others are less generous. To them, he is a Joe McCarthy for the age of terrorism. Congressman.
Mika, I believe in a democracy. The way you confront problems is to put the truth on the table, have free and open debate. That's what I'm doing. I would say the hysteria, the talk has all been generated by my opponents. I put out a simple statement in December listing the 5 or 6 areas I was going to investigate, one of which was radicalization of the Muslim community, which, by the way, Senator Lieberman and Senator Collins also conducted a similar investigation in the U.S. Senate. I think there's, I would say, why do people, what are they afraid of? What are they hiding from? Why are they so attacking me in such a rapid way? I can take the hits. That doesn't bother me at all. I have to live with this issue. I lost over 400 people in about 150 in my district, 400 on Long Island on September 11th. I don't ever want it on my conscience that if another attack comes, I wake up the next morning and said, I back down to political correctness. I back down to the Washington Post or the left-wing New York Times because I was afraid of political retribution. I'm going to do what I have to do, and I'm going to do it.
Well, Congressman, I think, frankly, that people are upset because the Constitution guarantees freedom of religion, freedom of association.
Nobody's challenging. That is such a phony argument. That is a phony argument.
And that is the type of thing. The impact of your hearing has been to make a lot of people in the Muslim community with whom I've spoken feel that they are being singled out as a target. Loyal Muslim Americans born here, raised here, going to die here, who are being singled out as the other, as different, as not quite like us.
And that is absolute nonsense. That is that type of hysterical reaction and misstatement of the fact facts, which is causing the reaction. I will have Muslims testifying on Thursday, and they will be thanking me for having the hearings because they were saying this issue has not been allowed to be brought forward. It's been covered up by political correctness. If you're saying that as chairman of the committee, and you have the president's deputy national security advisor giving a major speech saying that Al-Qaeda is recruiting in the Muslim American community, when you have Eric Holder saying he cannot sleep at night because of the domestic radicalization in this country, when you have Janet Napolitano saying that the terror threat is higher than any time since 9/11 because of radicalization, and you say I shouldn't investigate that, and I'm the one that's irresponsible, the irresponsible people here, the mainstream media, the liberal press, and the sycophants who follow the line of CAIR and other radicals in the Muslim community. I'm standing with the good people in the Muslim American community, the overwhelming majority of good people and good Americans.
Well, I'm not sure all of them feel that way. I will say, I mean, you know, there are two sides to this. You saw the reaction and the extremely irresponsible and untrue reaction by many to even the concept of a community center near Ground Zero, which was so blown out of proportion and so taken out of context, and Muslims were so characterized unfairly. You understand why people may be thinking this could be an irresponsible approach and there may be a better way to take a look at this?
Well, we've waited 9.5 years for a better way. The fact is that I talk to cops every day on the ground, New York police, Suffolk County police, Nassau police, FBI agents, and they will give you case after case. When they talk to me where there was no cooperation, on Long Island alone, you had Venus, a young man who went to Afghanistan to fight. Prior to that, he was involved in 2 mosques on Long Island. Nobody in those mosques told police what they knew, even though they knew he was going for jihad.
Congressman Peter King, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come back on the show. We'd like to hear how this progresses.
Great. Thank you, Mika.
Eugene Robinson, thank you as well for being on the show.